Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Pat with Cajun Sunshine Crafts. And if you're new, welcome aboard. It's been some time since I've done a video. Most of you that have been watching my channel for a while know that I stopped doing art for some time, and I can probably do a video just on that, but I am back to doing art, mostly watercolors, and but I do skip around. As a matter of fact, yesterday I started my first attempt at gouache, and it's not completed yet, but I did enjoy working on this, and it might be something that or it's probably something that I'm going to do more of in the future. But right now, I've been doing a lot of watercoloring. I started this watercolor study on with flowers. I'm trying to improve on my drawing skills as well as watercoloring. So I thought if I would just pick a topic like flowers, learn how to draw them, and then watercolor them, um, then it would help both my watercoloring skills and my drawing skills. So that's what I have done. Um, I did a calla lily, a geranium, some poppies, some roses, some daffodils, some tulips, and I do have a long way to go, I know, but it's been fun, and I could see that my skills are somewhat improving, but I've been practicing a lot. I did some sunflowers, hydrangeas, some cosmos, and today I'm going to be doing some an apple blossom. And I guess I could zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to be using my Daniel Smith paints, which are already poured onto my palette. If you'd like to see a video on the colors that I have in my palette, maybe swatches, I can do that also. I also have some more colors here by Daniel Smith, as well as some white and black gouache. Um, and like I said, I could do a video on all of the different colors if you guys would like to see that. And these are some more Daniel Smith colors that I just put into separate palettes. Um, on my big palette here, what I did was, I don't know if you could see it very good, but I took some caulking and I put some caulking on my palette and let it dry, and then I just used those as wells for some additional colors, and I still have a good bit of mixing space down here. So that's an idea if you have a mixing palette and you wanted to fit more colors in it. um, I'm going to be working off of this reference photo that I found on the internet, on Google. I just searched images for cherry blossoms, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the sketch on here that well because I tried to get as light as I could with it so as not to see the pencil lines underneath the sketch. So I'm going to see how this goes, and I'm going to try to not speed up the uh, the footage on here and do more of a real time. I prefer watching real time, especially when it's watercolors, because it's just something about watercolors that um, I like to see the water mixing on the page, and doing doing it slower and step by step. I find I learn more that way. So that's how I'm going to do it, unless I see that it's taking too long. And if so, I might just split it up into separate videos. Now, I have not I wanted to try to fit my palette in here a little bit so you could see how I mix the colors, but I may not be able to do that for you to be able to see the sketch as good. But I haven't done this video thing in a while, so y'all may have to give me a little break on that. I also have, I'm going to be using the Wonder Forest brushes. I just recently purchased these. I've been looking at them for a while, and they are fantastic. Um, I like a brush that holds a lot of water and has a good snap to them, which means that they snap back when you're painting. They go back to their original point, and they do have a very, very pointy point, if you could, as you could see on here. So I will be using these brushes. I'm not sure what sizes yet, but I'll let you know if I'm switching them up. I have my paper towel here, and I also have my water here. It's two separate things. I got this from Jackson's Art, I believe. Yes, Jackson's Art, but they may have them on Amazon. I could see if I could find a link for them and link them down below in the description. Also, I have an extra jar of water here just in case I need it. I have a swatch sheet, a swatch cord that I laminated of all of my Daniel Smith paints. So I have that here handy. I don't have all of the colors on here, but I have most of them on here. So I will be using that also. I have my coffee, and I think I'm ready to go. I also have my watercolor pencils here, just in case I decide to use those. I have the set of 120 of the Albert Doors, and then I also have the Prismacolors, but I prefer the Albert Doors. These are the Prismacolors. They're a little bit taller. And I have my Inktense pencils here also, but I don't think I'm going to be using those. So to start, I am going to let's see, I have not I have looked at the pictures somewhat, but I haven't decided. I can probably use the same color pink that I have here on my palette that I was using for another video. I mean, not another video, another picture. Now I'm trying to remember what picture I was using it for. Can't remember. But anyway, as you can see on these petals, the petals are mostly white. They look white. So for those petals, I'm going to be using the lightest of light pinks that I can, and probably some Payne's gray, just to get the that white effect of the flowers, but not to lose the pink tone of the flowers. So let me get a sheet out of the back of this book so I can use it as a swatch sheet as I'm going on. I didn't think about that before, sorry. And I can use this to test my colors before I actually go into my painting. Now I do have some more that I drew. I have some snowdrops and some camellias left in this study after the apple blossom, but I'll get to those when I'm finished. Okay, so let's see. I diluted my pink really dilute right here, and this paint is actually the core magenta, Quin Magenta, and this is, well, I'm gonna have to get used to staying in the camera. This is light, but I was actually looking for something a little lighter, so I'm gonna add some more water, because with watercolor, to make your color lighter, you simply add water. So let's see, and I'm gonna just keep adding water. Pull out a little spot right here where I can, I'm gonna keep adding water until I get it to that light pink. And I think that's it right there. So I'm going to put this to the side for next time, and I'm going to grab some paint from my palette, and I'm going to just go in to these petals. And what I'm going to do first of all is go in with my lightest pink along where they would have shadows on these petals. And you could see, hopefully you could see where the flowers petals are bent over. You're going to have a shadow under those. Oops, just starting and I'm already messing up. Okay, so I'm going to take this. If there's too much color, you could just dab your paintbrush on your paper towel to lighten that up. And I'm going to just go around the underneath of this little loop of the flower. I'm going to take a little bit more paint off my brush and just kind of blend that in. And then you just take the tip of your brush and you blend out, dip it in some water, take the color completely off of your brush, and then just fade that in with the white of the flower. Now if you find it's too light, you could just continue dipping your brush into the paint and get it to the color that you want it. And that to me is looking pretty good. So I'm going to grab some more paint on my brush, and I'm going to continue doing that with the rest of these folds right here. And Jackson has the music on outside. I hope you can't hear it, because I don't want to get that's another thing. I'm at home and I have a different setup. I'm now sitting in the living room. I have a table set up behind my couch so I could do my art while we're watching TV at night, and I'm not stuck in my studio by myself. And that helps me, and it helps Jackson because he doesn't like to be by himself. So, and for those of you that don't know, Jackson is my fiance. So I'm taking a little bit more color off of the petal of the flower and just trying to leave that pink right near the darker, right near where that flower loops in. And I might add just a little bit more color to right under that petal that's looping down. And because this area is wet, the little bit color pigment that I put on there is just going to fade into that flower. So now I'm going to go on to the next petal right next to it. And the water is not going to be touching on this from petal to petal. So if it would be right next to a petal that I've already colored, you can just skip to the next petal so your colors don't bleed into each other. I'm going to just pull that color out, take a little bit pigment off my brush, dip in water, and just fade this out. I'm going to pick a little bit more pigment off. And fade this out. I've been having so many requests to come and do videos again, and I was hesitant to do so because of several reasons, but I figured it wouldn't hurt. I'm doing it anyway, and I'm recording this, so if I don't like it, then I don't have to post it. So if I posted it, then I guess that means I liked it. So we're just gonna go with it and see how it goes, and hopefully it goes okay. Now I went back in and added a little bit more pigment to this flower here because watercolors dry lighter than when you put the pigment on the paper. you may have to go back in and add, and we'll be adding more colors. This is just the first layer of colors. So, and I'm just picking up a very little bit of pink, and it doesn't take a whole lot of pigment just to get this little soft edge right here. Because remember, we're trying to keep the integrity of the white in the flowers also. So you see it's darker, but it's it's still that pink. So I'm gonna be going in over this with a light layer of probably a mixture of the same pink with Payne's gray right up under next to that fold. Okay. And just let me know if you guys would prefer for me to speed this up or if you'd like to see the whole process. Because if you prefer me speeding it up, then I can do that. But when I'm watching a watercolor video, I like to see the whole process. But that's just me. So just let me know what you guys think. And this is a little bit more detailed, which looks like I've been leaning towards more detailed than loose. I start off trying to go loose, and then I end up adding more and more and more details, and it just ends up being a more detailed piece. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do what I enjoy and and it may end up being loose and detail combined. Who knows? It just feels good to be able to do art again. I guess I could go into why I quit in the first place. And I'm not going to dwell on it. I just want to let you guys have some kind of idea. Most of you know I went through a traumatic medical experience last year. It lasted about 4 years. There's another bent over petal here, so I'm going to add some right there. And as a way to cope through that medical issue, I started coloring, adult coloring, wood coloring books. And if you have been here for a while, or if you look back on my channel, you'll find several coloring book pages that I've done. And that was my escape. That's what helped me cope through the pain. But then it came to a point after the pain went away, which it's completely gone now, thanks to another surgery that I had done last year, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before. I was in the hospital. I had a surgery 2 weeks before Christmas and then on Christmas Eve. And that took the pain completely away. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But every time I would sit down to try to do art after, it brought back the memories of the pain that I was going through, and it made me more, how should I say, it just brought back too many bad memories at that time. So every time I would sit down to color or try to do any kind of artwork, I would get depressed, and I don't know why it happened, but it happened because I don't know why. I mean, it did. But then after a while, when I started because I never did stop watching the YouTube videos of my favorite YouTubers, and I'm trying to lift some of that pink right there that splotched earlier. If I could do anything different, I would have sketched these in my Etchers sketchbook, which is 100% cotton. This is done on the Strathmore 400 series, and it's not the best paper to watercolor on. It's not bad, but it's not, there are some better ones out there. I would recommend 100% cotton. But now I'm going to go into some Payne's Gray, a light Payne's Gray. I'm going to take some of this, well, I want to use that pink, but I'd like for you to be able to see. I wonder if I raise this up a little. Let's see if I can adjust some things so you could see. Probably not. Let me move these colors out the way, and then I could do that. So, I guess it went like a year or so before I started doing art again, and I started back with watercolors. Okay, I have my, if the glare is not going to get you, I have my Payne's Gray right here, and I'm just going to water that down and make it a very, 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 very light consistency. And I could put some of that pink in there, which is probably what I'm going to do. And that is the reason, the main reason that I stopped doing YouTube videos is because I wasn't doing art anymore. And it hurt me a lot because I used to love to do my YouTube videos. But I couldn't, I would get anxious, I would get anxiety really bad. I've always had trouble with anxiety, and it was just getting the best of me. So I just put that aside, and then I knew, well, I was hoping one day that it would come back to where I would be able to do art again and not be so anxious. And here we are. So I've been enjoying it. I've been doing something every day art-wise, whether it's painting. I have Skillshare, so I've been using Skillshare a whole lot in painting along with projects on Skillshare, which I've been enjoying and have learned a lot. And I'm just glad to have that mojo back. I don't know if I'll ever go back to coloring. I have all of these beautiful coloring books, but I don't know if I'll ever go back to use them. Oops, sorry. Okay, and as you could see that it turned where that shadow is right along that petal. It made it look a little bit more 3D. And adding this to the, just that around the side of that fold and pushing it out a little bit is all you're trying to do. And then I'm going to rinse off my brush completely and blend that in. Everybody has gone through hard times this past year. We were no exception. I own a tavern, and we were closed for 4.5 months out of the year last year, which was very hard. And thank God my mom taught me how to save for a rainy day, because if not, we would probably still be closed today. But because of her, and because of having that little cushion to fall back on, we were able to continue paying bills. And we're back open now. Not, we are still having to follow the COVID restrictions with the masks and having everything sanitary, and but we are open and we're doing good. Everybody is just thrilled to be able to get back out again. We're able to have DJs. We're able to have live bands also, but I have not done that yet because we still have to get a little bit back on our feet because, believe it or not, the DJs bring in more people than bands do, live bands, and they are probably a quarter. They cost wise to get a band over a DJ is, to book a band for 4 hours is you can't get one for less than $700-800. To book a DJ for 4.5 hours is $200, and they bring in more people. So we don't understand it, but that's just the way that the business works, and you have to just go with what works. Okay, so now I'm looking at the folds of these flowers, and it looks like the parts of the flowers that are folded over are a little bit darker than the flower itself, and I probably went too dark on this because that looks, it doesn't look as white as I'd like it to look. But the beauty about watercolors, I could try to fix that, but I'm looking at the folds right now. It looks like the folds are darker on top, so we're going to go a little bit darker with our pink. But before I do that, I'm going to get my chisel blender, which this is a Princeton Select chisel blender, size 6, and I'm going to try to pick up some of that pink right here, so this could look a little bit more white. And all I'm doing is just, and this is where cotton paper would be more convenient also, because this paper tends to peel. So you see where I blended up some of that color and the flower looks more white. And I always try to go with the petal grain because sometimes that could give you a little texture also on the petal. But if you could see, it's peeling up, so you can't scrub too much on this paper because it's not gonna, it just doesn't work. And it sounds like it's starting to rain outside again. We've had a couple of weeks of rain here with some cool fronts, believe it or not. Okay. Jackson is here. He's outside preparing. He's working on getting the pool ready for when it warms up. All right, so it didn't take it all off, but it took some of it off. Okay, so I'm going to put this brush aside and pick up this. I'm using the size 4. I forgot to say the size of the brush, but I'm using the size 4. I used the size 4 for the first couple of flowers also. And I'm going to get some more of this color right here. The Payne's gray with a little bit of the pink, which turned it into more, a little purplish color, but it's right next up to this line where the shadow would be. I'm just pulling it down. And I just wanted to say I do very much appreciate everybody that's been checking up on me and just to see how I was doing, and it really does mean a lot. It really does mean a lot because I've missed it tremendously. I don't know yet if I'll be going back live. I'm just gonna see how things go. I want this to be a fun experience where it doesn't feel like a job. And again, it was also, that's another thing, it was starting to feel more like a requirement rather than just enjoying art itself. Okay. So now I'm going to take a little bit more of that pinky color. Move this over, if you could see. And as you can tell on my palette, it's a very, very light pink. Let me see if I can, yeah, that might be a little bit better. Not so much glare. It's a, well, it looks darker in person than it does, but it's a very light pink. Let's see if I can make the lighting a little bit better. I don't know, we don't want to do that. Let's see. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to get it. Yeah, I don't want the glare on the paint so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's just go with it. Now the tops of the petals here, make sure it's dry before you go into to try to add any of the rest of the colors. And I'm looking back at my reference, and I don't want to, I'm gonna try to not cover the whole, let's see, the whole thing in pink, because it looks like it's just to keep some of that white in there showing up through the background, because water is a transparent medium, so you use the white of the paper to your advantage, especially in something like this. And now using this pink, it made that flower look more purple than pink, but that's okay. Just because I have a reference, it doesn't have to look exactly like the reference. You use a reference for exactly that, as a reference. And if you want to paint yours a different color, feel free to do so. But cherry blossoms to me is more of a pinkish. I don't know if they have different colored cherry blossoms, to be honest. I don't really know. And I'm going to just try to line up these edges where the fold is, so it's a little bit more evident. If that's the right word. I'm just tapping my paint on to the fold at the top of the flower. And if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to put them in the description down below, and I'll be happy to try to answer them. Okay, it's looking pretty good. And get this one. Put in. So to fill you in on some of the things that we've been doing this last horrible year, Of course, when the worst of the sickness was going on, we were home just like everybody else. We quarantined at home. And then when the restrictions started getting lifted, we decided to purchase a camper. So we have been going camping, and it is wonderful. We have been loving it. Um, they have the campsite set up to where it's you don't have to see any or um, you don't have to mix with any of the people. You just pay your um, your fees to be able to get in, and you go in and you um, set up your camper and you do your little thing. I mean, we fished a lot. We went in the boat a lot. Um, I can't say that we caught that many fish because they really weren't biting, but it was just nice being out in nature in the boat. Um, it's I hope y'all could see. Okay. Um, just being in the boat is therapy, and you can see I'm just using light strokes, light dabs almost, just leaving some of the white of the paper showing. And Jackson is here, so if he comes in, you'll probably hear him, but I mean, that's just part of life. Okay, now that looks like all of the folds. What I think I'm gonna do next is concentrate on the little buds. There are the little buds here, and back to the reference picture, the buds are a much brighter pink. So I will probably be using, let's see, I have Quin Coral, Quin Red, Quin Pink will probably be, let's see, Quin Rose also. Let's take our swatch sheet and swatch out a couple and see what we come up with. All right, so this is Quin Rose right here. Take a look at that. And then we have Quin Pink. Let's see what that looks like. And these are Daniel Smith's. And that's very close. It looks like the pink is just a little bit brighter. All right, so let's see. Let's see. Going back to our reference picture. Let's see. I think the Quin Rose will work better, so let's go ahead and use that. Why don't we? And none of this was planned. This was just a spur of the moment. I had no idea I was going to be doing this today. And all I did was just took my Quin Rose and mixed it in the same pink that I was using, because I'm using a higher concentrate of the Quin Rose mixed into this pink. It's going to dominate that color. So what I'm going to do is just dip my brush into the water, and I'm going to use the cup for this, and then just brush it against my cup just to get some of that pigment off. Maybe dip it in the water and dab it on my paper towel, and we could go into one of the blossoms. Let's do this one right here. It's brighter on top, so I'm going to rinse the water off my brush and just use completely clean water to move this pigment around. And I want it right on top, so I'm going to move this back up here. Again, getting clean water. Move that back up. And then just go around the bottom. When you touch that paint right there, it's going to bleed into. And that's Jackson. Say hello, Jackson.
Hello.
It's going to bleed into that flower. I'm going to take a little bit water off of here because it's, if you leave too much water on the flower, it's going to create a bloom and hard lines. So take a little bit off of there. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next one. Scraping some of that pigment off, dip it in the water, tap it on my towel, and we're going to do this one up here. All right, I'm going to try to do it like this so you guys can see. Dab the color off of my paintbrush and get completely clean water. Dab some water off of my brush because I don't want to add more water to this because I want to keep the vibrancy of it, but I'm going to use this to pull some color down into the flower bud, and this is just the first layer, so we're going to definitely come in and add some more details to this. And while this is still wet, I could take an incy bitsy little bit of color and add it just to the corners right here to make this just a little bit more brighter. A little bit more. Move my palette over some more so you can see. Okay, and the next bud, let's do this one down here. Grab a little bit more of the pink, dip it in my water, take some of that pigment off, and again we're going to start at the top. Rinse off my brush, clean it, dab it on your paper towel because you don't want to add more water. You just want to be able to move the pigment around. So move that right down into where the bud is going to meet the base of the flower. And then again, I'm going to get some more of that pink, just a little bitty bit, and add it to the top of this flower. This bud. Okay. It's just looking a little bit hard to me, so I'm going to pull it back up like that. Okay, and like I said, we're going to come back to those and give them a little bit more color after. All right, pick up some more pigment. We're doing the same thing for each one, and it's probably getting boring for you because it's repetitive, but dabbing the color off my brush, rinsing it off, and just pulling that And this is just a little bitty bud, so while I'm doing that, I could take some of that same color and do this, do this bud right here. Take a little bit of that water off there because it's a little bit too much. Getting back to our camping, it's just so nice to be able to get out into nature, just like getting in a boat. And we have it to where we could pull a boat in a camper. We could pull the boat behind the camper because it's just a little, they call it a couples camper. It's not huge. It's just big enough for Jackson and I. It's actually perfect. Just the right size. It has a lot of storage, and we got a fantastic deal on it because it was a 2020 model. No, 2020. Yeah, a 2020 model we bought at the beginning of 2021, I believe. So we got a very good deal on it. It was the last one in stock. So that helped out a lot. And our next, well, we purchased, which didn't come in yet, and this little bud right here was just peeking through, so I made it darker so you could see it. You could see it just peeking through the green. Okay, let's see. I think that's another bud right there. I don't know if I made it too light for me to even see, so let's see. I'm gonna just paint it in right here because it doesn't look like I even drew it in. So we're just gonna paint it in. How about that? Take some of that pigment off my brush. We ordered some motorcycles. And before you guys freak out, it's a semi-automatic Honda CT70 clone. Honda used to make, it's a 125cc. It's like it's not a huge motorbike. Jackson's gonna look like a big Mr. Clean riding on this little, with his bald head, riding on this little it almost looks like a scooter, but not. If you want to, I mean, you can go and look it up. It's called a CT70 Honda CT70 clone. And it's just to get around the campgrounds. And if we need to go to the store, it's good for on-road or off-road. So we can use them for that. Let's see, did we get all of the buds? Yes, I think we did. So let's go to the petals on these flowers here. And let's see. None of these flowers look completely flat. And on here, they look completely flat. So what I have to do is try to make them look like they're not flat. So what I'm going to do is try to do that. Let's see if I can do it. What I think I'm going to do is use this shadow violet right here. A very, very light. Put a little bit on my brush and dilute it down very low, like a lot. Make it light. It's mixing a little bit with that pink, but that's okay. We want it light as we can get it, almost lighter than that. think that's good right there. And I'm just going to go over the whole petal. And then let that dry, and then we'll come in and add some dimension to it after they're dry. It's very light, so we can make these petals look like they're still white. But we're gonna come in and add some dimension to them. I've been able to spend some time with my grandbaby girl, who's doing fantastic. She's growing like a little weed. She's gonna be 2 next month already. Seems like she was just born. And she's gonna be 2 already. It just seems unbelievable. She's a little ham. Very active. Very curious. Now the Shadow Violet has some unique textures to it. When it gets onto the paper, I'm using it in such a dilute form right now. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but I like the granulating colors, except they don't do too well in florals all of the time. Sometimes, but not. It depends on the look you're going for. See, I kind of messed. We've been binge watching a lot of TV, as I'm sure everybody else has. We've been watching all of the. We watched all of the golly, the old like King and Queen series on Netflix. The Spanish, I think it's the Spanish Princess, the White Queen, and shows like that. We've been enjoying those a lot. Okay, I'm just seeing a spot of the pink that I missed right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some more of my pink and dilute it down quite a bit. Dip it in my water. Wipe it on the edge of the glass. I'm not sure if that's, yeah, this looks like would be a part of the bud. Tip off some of that water. Some more of that water. It's quite a bit of water. Pull it over here. Onto this petal. See if I missed any more. Okay, now while letting those petals dry, I think I'm going to do the wood portion of it, the bark. And on the reference picture, it looks like to be a more plummy kind of It's not a brown, it's more like a plum color. So let's see what we can use for that. I think I'm gonna mix some of the raw umber, which is a good earthy color. I have an eyelash in there. It's a good earthy color, but I'm gonna add some shadow violet to it. And make it this pretty. If you look at the branch on here compared to this color here, and I don't know how well you could see it, but it looks just like this color here. So I'm gonna go ahead with that color. And what I think I'm gonna do with the branch is I'm gonna wet it first, and then we're gonna drop in some color. And that's known as wet and wet. And for that, this is a size 4, so I'm gonna move up to a size 6 brush. And this paper, again, is not 100% cotton, so it's tricky to use to do wet and wet. You gotta be somewhat quick about it. And I find you have to lay down more water because it doesn't stay. When you're using cotton paper, it soaks into the water, but the paper stays wet. This one here, it soaks into the paper, but the paper doesn't stay wet. It pretty much soaks it up and then it dries to where your water won't move. So you gotta kind of be quick about it. So go ahead, put my water down, and I'm looking at it at an angle to where I could see where the water is, and also to see whether there's enough water, because it does dry so quick. I put more than one layer of water in the areas that I see that it's drying a little more quickly. So now I'm going to grab my pigment, and I already can see that this is going to be a separating color. And I'm going to start up here and just add, and it's not going to move as quick as it does on cotton paper either. So you got to kind of try to help it along, push it along for it to go. And just the paint itself, the properties in the paint is going to give the wood a little more texture. I'm trying to go with the grain of the wood from side to side, but this is just the first wash. We are going to see, if this would be cotton paper, the pigment would be moving a whole lot more than it is now. But since this is wood pulp paper, it dries very quickly. I'm going to end that right there. And then we're going to move up here. Let's see, the branch goes in between this section right here. So I'm going to get a little bit of water. And I may have a little bit of pigment still left on my brush, but that's okay. We don't want pink though. I must have came off of the cup. And I'm going to add some water in here. And I'm going to drop some of this pigment in there. Just let that move around and do its thing around that flower. And then There's some in between this right here, so I'm not going to wet it. I'm going to just paint this in just to fill in that space, since it is such a small space. And these brushes have such a nice point to them. You can almost do a whole picture with just this 6 round brush. Okay, now up here I'm going to go ahead and wet it. Make sure y'all can see. I'm going to go ahead and wet this little piece sticking up here. The next study I do, if there is a next, which there probably will be, I'm going to definitely be using my Etcher sketchbook, which is 100% cotton. And we're going to go ahead and drop this in here. I may have to mix a little bit more raw umber. With the shadow violet. And drop that in here. And move this up. Take some of that water off. See if I can move some of that pigment up there. Okay. And if your edges are not completely straight, it's okay, because a tree's edges is definitely not completely straight. Actually, the more rigid edges you have on your tree, the better. The more realistic it'll look. Not that I'm going for a realistic look, but more realistic it will look. All right, and for the leaves, look, the leaves are kind of they're kind of like a sappy green, but what if I use green let's swatch out green apatite and see what that looks like. Let's see. That's almost the perfect green. So we're going to use green apatite for the leaves. See, that's almost completely dry already, because it dries so quick. Let's start with this leaf right here, since it's not touching the wood at all. Now these have some serrated edges on them, so we're just gonna give them some little serrated edges. And just go ahead and fill the leaf in. And this is just our first wash on that one. Okay. Then we're going to go back into green apatite and water it down a little. Add some water to it. And we're going to do this one over here. Putting those serrated edges in. Down into the stem. Just pull that paint down the whole leaf. And then we're going to come put some more dimension into these after it dries a little bit. But the green apatite already has some granulating effects, so it's going to give the leaf a little bit more texture. Alright, on to our next flower. Our next leaf. Right here, and this leaf is folded over. So I'm going to do the inside bottom of the leaf a little darker. Putting those serrated edges on there. I hope everybody is doing well and staying well with everything. I'm going to go in. I should wait for this to dry, but I just took some of that green off of my brush, and I'm going to try not to touch the green that I just put down yet. But if it bleeds into the other area, it's no big deal. You just want the top of that leaf to be a little bit lighter than the bottom of that leaf, because this top fold is going to be casting a shadow on that leaf below it, on the leaf that's underneath that fold. And this is just the apatite, the green apatites. You could see the mixture of the color that you get once it starts to dry. It's got little brown bits in it. Alright, and this is dry enough. I can go ahead and do that leaf. Let me add a little bit water, tap it off. If you can see, and you can slowly see your picture come into life, and that's I think my favorite part. Alright, just push that green back up there towards the base of the, because it will be darker under there from that flower casting a shadow on that leaf. And we have one more right here, and I should be able to do now. A little bit more water, pick up some more green. And it's behind this leaf right here. And you may watch a different YouTuber doing watercolor, totally completely different than what I do it, but that is what's so great about the medium. There's so many different ways that you can use it. In whatever style you like. So if you're interested in doing watercolors, I would suggest that you get a small set. I started off with the Cotman Winsor Newton Cotman pocket set years and years and years ago. As a matter of fact, I use it up, the pocket set, and I now use it as I refilled it with some other colors, and I was looking for it, but I'm not sure where it's at right now. That's a great little set to get started with. The one thing I would suggest you not scrimp on is the paper, because it makes a world of difference coloring on different. Okay, same thing with this leaf. It has a fold in it, so I'm gonna start with the bottom side of the leaf first. And this one's a little smaller, so I should have switched back to my brush, but I can go ahead and use this one, my smaller brush. But because I could be a little spastic sometimes. Okay. Just leave those little ridges in there. And then I'm gonna just put the tip of my brush in my water cup, swipe off some of the pigment that's on that brush, dab it on my paper towel. Well, I'm gonna give that a little bit of time to dry, which it doesn't take long to dry on this paper, but actually while waiting on that to dry, I could go ahead and add the stems on here, on these. One. Two. Sometimes I have to take my glasses off just so I could see what I'm doing. And let's see. All right, let's just take them off completely. And right here. And with the little bit of pigment I have left on my brush, I could go back up here and just add in this little section right here, which I hope you could see. There you go. Okay, now maybe put my glasses back on. All right, and we have a little, pick up some more paint, add some more water, pick up some more paint. And this video is probably going to be a whole lot longer than I wanted it to be, so I apologize for that. I was also thinking about doing some more journaling on my channel, in my scrap journal. If you'd like to see that, please leave a comment down below and we could do that. Also, trying to lean so you guys could see what I'm doing. Hopefully you can. Whoops. And go and pick that little bit of paint up right there. And try that again. Alright, and then this little flower. Little leaf cluster right there. Just starting to bloom. Just starting to open up. Okay, now I think we have everything, the base color on everything for now, and I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the video for this one right here and then do a part 2 to show how I'm going to do the details. So I hope you like this video. It felt good to be back here with you guys. It's been a long year. It's been a long few years, but hopefully from now on things will start getting better for everybody all the way around. Just take care of each other. Take care of your neighbors and your grandmas and grandpas that can't get out like they're supposed to. And I will see you next time. Thank you for joining. And if you liked this and more like this, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos so you can make sure that you get notified. And I'll see you next time. Bye.